Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. My name is Ruth Mortimer. I'm the Global President here at Advertising Week, and I'm really delighted to be hosting this session today, which is all about partnerships. Now, I think it's fair to say that in life, we all rely on partnerships, whether personal ones or business ones. But we're going to be specifically talking today about how some of the rich data and insights you can use within partnerships to lead to more profitability. So this sounds a pretty good subject, and I need to know everything about this. So let me introduce the three expert speakers I have to help us with this topic. So I have Lindsey Woodland. She is the GVP Client Data Service at Science at 605. Welcome, Lindsey. Thank you for joining us. Nathan Hugenberger, he is the CTO and EVP at Known. And we have Sylvia George. She is the EVP Performance Marketing at AMC Networks. So you guys are like a real-life case study right here on stage. So I'm pretty excited to get started. Now, nothing works in life without partnerships. So do you want to tell us a little about each of your roles within this partnership? Maybe, Sylvia, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I work at AMC Networks managing all of our media investments, and as you can imagine, you have to really understand how every dollar is working for you, and in this environment, it's becoming even more and more critical that we understand our audiences, understand how our marketing is driving acquisition, subscriber viewership. So, we're really, really excited to work with 605 and with Known to get deeper data insights, to understand how we can be more surgical and really drive acquisition and retention and really understand, our performance metrics at a much deeper level. So, I think everything's evolving. There's always new information, customer preferences and tastes change, and obviously everything's getting way more competitive. So that's where we're coming at it from.
Great. And Lindsey?
Sure. So I'm working at 605, and we're helping AMC to improve their targeting and their ad planning strategies. In particular, what we've done is we've ingested all of their past subscriber data. So as you know, AMC has multiple streaming services. So we have their subscriber data, and we layer that in with our linear viewership data. So we have access to over 34 million homes of second-by-second linear viewership and access to digital content through our partnership with Conviva. So we're able to analyze AMC's past campaign performance as well as their current campaigns in real time. And what this enables us to do is determine, what are the most effective ad placements? Which creatives are actually moving the needle to make people subscribe? Maybe 15-second ads are more effective than 30s. Also layering in, what's the optimal frequency? We've been looking at, where the diminishing returns are, how many ads you need to cater towards each different audience group. So that's one way we're helping. We're also helping improve their targeting. So we're working on something which is called our persuadable target. And these are the households that are persuaded to convert because of the ad they see. It's not your typical propensity model. It's more honing in on that exact group, and so you don't have to worry about your wasted spin on households who are not going to convert or ones who are already converting. So we're kind of building the insights behind the data from their past performances, and then working with AMC and Known to then put that into action.
Perfect. Now, Nathan, tell us your role in the partnership.
Sure. So I'm the CTO at Known, and we are the global media AOR for AMC. And really our job is to bring a scientific approach to how we both build the plans and optimize the spend, as well as the creative for AMC's plans. So, our team is working really closely with both the AMC team and the 605 team to identify what we want to test, what we want to learn, and then how we can implement those learnings across both tactics, channel allocations, and the creative itself. So it's a really holistic partnership where our data scientists are talking to data scientists at 605 and at AMC to think about what we know already, what we don't know, and then what we could really sort of identify in the next upcoming spend that would really make a difference.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to diving into some of these insights. But Lindsey, you mentioned a term that I haven't heard before, which was persuadable targeting. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So our persuadable target is kind of a term that we've coined, but it's really honing in on the households who are persuaded to convert, so subscribe to like AMC Plus because they saw the ad. Now there's always these households that they're already going to convert, right? Maybe they love AMC, they watch AMC all the time. You don't necessarily need to target them perhaps, or you could use a different strategy. But if we're solely looking at increasing our customer base, we want to hone in on the group that is likely to convert, and we can remove the waste on the lower end, maybe households that are never going to convert. And we can also include maybe lower propensity converters. So if you take a typical propensity model of like likely converters, that's what many marketers may advertise to these days, you're going to get that higher end. But you're going to include households that will already convert, which you can then remove. But you might be missing those lower propensity households that will only convert if they see an ad. Maybe they haven't heard of you at all, and a typical model won't include those. So we're trying to reduce the ad waste and hone in on that middle section.
Okay, that's really interesting. So Sylvia, let's go back to you and talk about what are those big questions when you're briefing Known and 605. What are you trying to find out, and how does that fit with your strategy at AMC?
Sure. So, one of the things we're really lucky about is, it all starts with content. AMC is really lucky that we have amazing content and IP, with franchises like The Walking Dead, with Anne Rice, including Interview with the Vampire, which just premiered, and the content that's curated on our targeted networks. We're already targeting very passionate audiences who are seeking this content. And for us, it's how do we get even deeper into those verticals? How do we understand those audiences even more? And how can we message audiences depending on what platform they're on to really get them to convert, per what Lindsey was saying? Somebody who might be persuadable on mobile versus somebody who's watching, through connected TV. So those could be two slightly different messages. And then how do you keep them so that you can drive engagement and retention? So these are some of the questions, obviously much, much more detailed. We're trying to get more surgical in identifying these audiences and targeting these audiences, and also a rigorous test and learn approach. Nathan was talking about the creative. There could be a whole series of creative you could test, and out of 10 different assets, maybe there's 2 that really, really move the needle. How do you do that in a rigorous, disciplined way to help really understand what's moving the needle? So it's really understanding our audience, really understanding performance metrics, really understanding what's working, and just doing that in a really, really systematic way. So those are some of the things we're trying to answer with these guys.
That makes sense, and I've started to think that maybe I am the persuadable target. As you've all been talking, I can definitely consume more AMC content. So Nathan, tell us a little bit. Obviously, you don't have to persuade me. I'm yours. But when you're creating a media plan within a partnership like this, how does that work?
So we really start with what we call a learning agenda, which is identifying the things that would be really important to understand in order to increase efficiency, in order to help either hit our goals in terms of subscribers or hit our tuning goals. So it sort of starts with that. And part of that's populated by our data scientists looking at what we saw in the most recent spend and sort of wondering what if. But it also starts with a conversation with AMC and 605 to understand, what are the hypotheses? What are the things we want to be able to test? So we use that learning agenda to not just build a media plan, but really that optimization plan, that experimentation plan where we identify not just how are we going to test the creative, but what creative do we want to test? What creative should we be making so that we can actually explore that territory? And how should that match up to different audiences like the persuadables so that we can really be smarter every day throughout that campaign than we were the day before, right? So we want to really create a continuous process that's based on the insights from prior analysis, but also some of the intuition and some of the art here, right?
And sometimes media plans can feel a bit set and difficult to kind of change direction. Does making it learning mean that you can pivot and change when you make new discoveries?
Yeah, we're changing it all the time, right? And so in some ways, the media plan is the worst on the very first day of the campaign because that's when you know the least, right? So our process here is really to make sure we're constantly mining the data in 605 to be able to understand what's working and be tweaking whether it's the creative, the targeting, the allocation, all of that's fair game, right? So it needs to evolve in real time.
Okay, great. And Lindsey, you mentioned evaluating campaigns, but across multiple platforms. So tell us a bit about that and why it matters.
Sure. So I think Sylvia mentioned this too, right? Different audiences consume content across different platforms. And across these different platforms, they receive messages in different ways. So what we want to do is we want to ensure that we're bringing in all this information. And so we analyze this through, we have our own products, like we call it impact and platform, but we can take that information, the subscriber data, where they're viewing impressions across, say, linear TV, addressable TV, digitally. And then we can analyze what's working. And we might see things such as, like, target 1 households are very receptive to, say, 4 impressions on digital content and 4 on linear. These are your households who you want to target, kind of the ideal frequency. But we might also see that target 2 over here, they will be responsive after, say, 8 impressions on linear only. Okay, these are 2 very different groups. One is watching content on multiple platforms, one is only watching on once. So with that insight, we can further dive into those groups, figure out their demographic attributes, their viewing patterns, and then this information is what we then can relay on to AMC and Known, and then we can start testing these strategies. So if we find out, say, target 1, ideally we should hit them on 2 platforms, around 10 impressions total. They're typically households who maybe have an income of 50 to 150, they own a home, they're married, they watch a lot of daytime TV on cable. That's great, awesome. Passing that information to the agency, they can then plan on that, right? Start throwing out ads to try to really reach these people. Don't oversaturate them with too many ads, but don't undersaturate it. So I think that's where it's critical.
Okay, great. And so Sylvia, when you're looking at the kind of evaluations across different platforms, how long does the whole process take from start to end? When Lindsey's coming back to you with, this is what target 1 households, target 2 households, how quickly can you do this?
Very quickly. I mean, I think the idea is to be, as Nathan mentioned, we're constantly iterating, right? So it's, as soon as we get the data, the idea is to try to action on that data. And, fortunately, depending on what platforms you're advertising on, linear, it might take a little bit longer, but a digital campaign, a self-service campaign, you can instantly change what you're doing, what you're targeting, what creatives you're serving. And to what Lindsey was saying, I think one of the things we're most excited about is creating a really holistic approach to marketing, that where we can leverage digital, linear, our own ecosystem to understand, if we nudge something over here, what does it do over here, and how does that really, really move the market, and how does that really drive acquisition and retention? So yeah, it's pretty dynamic. It's pretty, the intention is for us to be able to action on it very quickly, but it just depends on the platform that you're messaging on.
Got it, that makes sense. And so how much of this is, you mentioned before that it could be about targeting existing subscribers, or it could be about new households you're trying to reach. How much of it is, of each of those are you looking for? Is it more about the people you already have and understanding them, or about reaching out to find new people? Start with you, Sylvia.
I mean, I think both are very, very important. I think we're still learning a lot about the available target audience, depending on, and that's so much of why we're leveraging 605 and Known, because we think we know our audiences pretty well, but I think I think you mentioned we don't know what we don't know. So part of it is really identifying the full scope of that target market for each of these campaigns. So I think both are equally important.
Yep.
Depending on your subscriber base, a point or two of churn improvement can be massively transformational in your revenue and your subscriber numbers. So, depending on what the content, where you are in the subscriber journey, both of those things could be pretty important.
And I'd love to know from Lindsey, Nathan, have there been any insights that you've turned up that have really surprised you? You've gone, this isn't what we've expected, and then pivoted and changed strategy because of them?
So I don't know if it's unsurprising, but I do know recently we've been working with the team here, and we've found out in regards to reaching across more platforms, that a large portion of the AMC Plus subscribers already are AMC Network viewers, which makes sense, right? They want to move to the streaming platform. But then the question then becomes, how can we reach these households that are not AMC Network viewers already? So we want to then look at households who maybe are no longer cable subscribers, maybe they've never subscribed to cable. And these are three very distinct groups, right? They have different viewing patterns, different habits, so you need a different targeting strategy to reach them and acquire them. So what we're working towards is like clustering these three groups and looking at their viewing patterns. And then we can build that persuadable target again within each to get an idea of who is likely to be persuaded within each segment. That'll give us a nice starting place of where we could possibly go after these. And then layering in the findings we found before, like what creatives are working, what are optimal frequencies, and that gives a good starting place to then marry with what AMC already knows about their viewers, who is actually their target audience, and what Known can do with actually implementing these strategies using their test and learn. So I think all of us can work together to hopefully increase that subscriber base.
Damn you, Lindsey. I feel you're telling me that because you've got the data, there are no surprises. You know everything already. Damn it. What would you say, Nathan? Anything that surprised you?
Well, I think that one of the most interesting and sort of exciting parts of this has just been how sort of holistic and integrated it's been, right? So obviously we're focused on thinking about the paid media plan and the advertising and those elements, but the conversation extends to all parts of that marketing ecosystem, the owned and operated, the digital, the tune-in. You can't really identify how to optimize your portion without understanding how it connects with the rest. And I think that's been sort of one of the most important parts of the collaboration, is that the conversation you're in isn't sort of siloed, right? We're not just talking about this one piece. We're talking about creative. We're talking about O&O. We're talking about how you might learn something over here that actually impacts the rest of the business. And that's actually been probably the most exciting and also unusual parts of how we're engaging, just because oftentimes people live in little boxes that kind of boxes them in and what they can do.
And so, Sylvia, what would you say for AMC Networks? Obviously, the streaming area is incredibly crowded, very popular. People love TV, love films, love spending their time that way. I'm definitely target market 1, possibly and 2. But I'd love to know, what do you think about this as really kind of setting AMC aside from those competitors?
Well, I do think the content is first and foremost. I mean, I think really understanding your audience and your position in the marketplace. And for us, we are a premium drama network, super serving adults who are interested in premium dramas. So if you're looking for, a high quality drama, if you're looking for, better something in the vein of Better Call Saul or The Walking Dead, or again, the Anne Rice universe, or even, or anything that speaks to a specific passionate audience in that vein. AMC Plus has the AMC pedigree, which is so rich and already has such a legacy. It also includes Shudder, which is, many people have called it sort of the Netflix of horror. It is, bar none, the sort of home for all things horror. So if you're looking for, a specific experience with high quality drama, AMC Networks, or AMC Plus rather, is really the home for that. And so it's really serving, we're not trying to be everything to something for everybody. We're trying to be everything to somebody. We want to be that viewership and streaming experience that is indispensable to a really passionate audience base. And that's really where we're looking at.
And so does that feed into the models then, Lindsey, in terms of thinking about, we want to look for that particular passionate audience. We want to look for not everybody, but just these people who are going to be our right customers.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to tie in the content that AMC Plus is going to be offering, right? And so one way you can do this, you can look at, if they are linear viewers, what are the viewing behaviors, what shows do they watch, and try to build out this group of people who would likely be interested in the AMC Plus. Or Shudder. Shudder is horror everything. So obviously you probably want to look at linear viewers on horror programming. Additionally, for households who are maybe not cable subscribers, what other platforms are they subscribing to? That might give you a good idea of who could be a natural lead. What are they missing in those other platforms that AMC Plus could give them? And that's how you might want to focus your creatives, right? If they are horror viewers, focus your creatives on them towards Shudder. Maybe if they watch other streaming apps, focus them on why AMC Plus offers more, things like this.
And what would you say, Nathan, in terms of, you mentioned your learning plan, what would you say are the kind of next big innovations you'd expect in this space? Sylvia, he's going to give you all the news of everything good that's coming your way, live on stage. What do you think we should be looking out for from our partnerships?
So I think that one of the things that we're really excited about is figuring out how to use the data and how to use the experimentation, how to use the measurement to optimize that sequence of events, right? All of us know that we're exposed to different content in many different platforms, in many different places, everything from Twitter to TikTok to your TV and in between. And I think, understanding not just the who, but the where and in what context things are happening and figuring out how to really optimize that flow is where there's a lot of opportunity, right? And it includes not just, understanding, this particular call to action or this particular way of showing the content, but actually understanding how does someone flow through that decision-making process and ultimately get to the decision to, tune in or sign up, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that's what we're most excited about at Known.
And do you ever worry that, obviously we're at Advertising Week, a lot of super creative people here, and by using the data you can be so precise that you don't necessarily have that serendipity where people discover. How do you make sure you still get that surprise moment for people when you're using data? Lindsay, it's over to you. You're the woman with all the data.
Sure, I can chime in. So there are these households who are, maybe they never watched AMC, maybe they don't typically watch horror, but they really were drawn in maybe by the Walking Dead advertisement years ago, right? I typically didn't watch a ton of zombie shows before, but I definitely watched The Walking Dead. So how do you find somebody like me? We do various types of, you can do various types of lookalike modelings or propensity, right? The propensity models aren't going to give you this. These are your normal people who are likely to convert. It's like looking at the extra households, the ones maybe that you've missed. You've never or thrown an ad at that household, right? They're unexposed all the time. They don't know what your platform's doing. But perhaps you can start looking at them and seeing maybe they look alike other households who were new to this, right? Their typical viewing patterns were comedy, but then they subscribed to Shudder. Start looking at their patterns. Why did they subscribe? What are their demographic profiles? What other platforms do they adhere to? And those are going to start giving you leads, right? That's where we're trying to find what are these potentially low-hanging fruit that maybe we've missed the whole time because we were just focused on, AMC network viewers, horror shows, zombie shows, and that could give us an easy return.
Great. Anything to add there, Sylvia?
Sure. I think another area where you can be really surprised is creative. You might be going in with a set of 10, 20, hundreds of creatives and have a real point of view based on what you think you know about the audience. And then we go through this test and learn approach and we realize people are responding to something completely different. I've been in many meetings where I would not have suspected that, and you can be surprised constantly just because I think data uncovers those surprises rather than eliminates the opportunity for surprise. It really helps you uncover learnings that you probably wouldn't have gotten to had you not kept mining and looking.
So that's a good thing, and I'm beginning to think as well, I want Lindsay to just come and manage the data of my life to make it more efficient, because I think this would definitely be good for me. What do you think then in a partnership? So we've talked quite a lot about the data, the insights you can get, what it means for the business, but what about the partnership side? How do you make it effective? What's the way you guys communicate and make sure this works really well? So maybe we'll start with you, Nathan.
Sure. As I mentioned, trying to remove those silos and break things down so that there's good communication and context throughout the process, right? So, that both enables us to share ideas, share things we should be testing, right? The experimentation plan can unlock serendipity if you put the right kind of ideas and explorations into it. And so really making sure we're sort of crowdsourcing that is critical. I think that's really the key ingredient, right? There are people at the core of all of this, right? Some of them are data scientists, some of them are media strategists, some of them are creatives, but you want all of them sharing those ideas together, and I think that's what we're trying to create.
Perfect. What would you say, Lindsey?
I would agree completely. Removing the silos between, like, we each have our own strengths that we bring to this partnership, right? And so if we can work better with, you know, the programmer AMC and with agency to actually implement the findings. Like if I think I know what's happening, but I don't talk to AMC, then I might not know what their years and years of experience bring to the table. But if I don't talk with Known, they can't implement. So our information is pointless, really. So I think making sure that we communicate with the findings, what our same goals are aligned on, would be clear.
And what about for you, Sylvia? As the client, what's the most important thing for you about the partnership that makes it work?
I think ensuring and creating a partnership where it's not just, you know, two agencies, they're an extension of you. You know, they're there, they're in the room when we're talking about strategy, when we have new ideas. I mean, I have multiple meetings throughout the week that have 605 and Known team members in it, and we're just constantly talking through, okay, what is the order of the day? What question are we trying to get to today? So it's approaching it that way. They're not external. They're sort of part of the team, and that's been key for us. And I think it's been fun.
Right.
I don't know if these guys agree, but I mean, it has been for us. So.
And because we want to be part of the team, we've got a room full of marketers here, a couple of minutes left. What I'd really love to ask you guys is we promised them how you can make your company more profitable through those actionable insights. What I'd really love from each of you is, what is the one piece of advice you'd give people in this room today about how you should think about your data and insights, and something you should try? So Nathan, unfortunately, I looked at you, so over to you first.
My one insight would be to experiment more with both creative and media together. I think ultimately, too often those components don't talk to each other. The creative agency's over here, the media agency's over there. The people are from, you know, different territories and different backgrounds, and I think that alone, bringing those things together and having you think about it as a holistic thing, unlocks the most. Then you can listen to the data insights because you were there at the beginning, but without that, you're missing something. And so that's certainly how we've tried to design our team at Known.
Okay, perfect. Creative and media in partnership. Great. Lindsey?
Sure. So I would say be willing to try new things based on the findings. So I feel like a number of times we've seen that certain creatives that maybe the marketers were thinking are really going to drive are not actually working for the audience that they plan to. But we are able to find like a specific smaller target audience where it's really working. So take that information and then run with it. Look into that target. Why is that creative resonating with them? And use that for your future creative planning. Also altering your targets, altering your plans to start attracting new customers that maybe you never thought of advertising to in the past, right? There is low-hanging fruit. We find it all the time. So I guess be willing to listen to the data. Maybe not like one sample of data, but repeated runs. If you're seeing the same things, try it. It's probably going to work.
Great advice. Test and learn. And Sylvia, let's finish up with you.
I would say look across your organization. You know, we've come out of a situation where we're still pivoting into this more holistic approach, but we are uncovering so much value by looking across our entire ecosystem and working with partners that can really help us do that. So finding those partners that can help you uncover the value within your own ecosystems, within your own media ecosystems, is really critical.
That's great. And I just wanted to sum up some of the themes you brought up here. I think it's really an important point you made there, Sylvia, about uncovering that profitability that's already there within your own data. You just need to find it. I thought you made some really good points about seamless partnerships, because actually, if you don't all work together, if you're not all on the same call, if you aren't part of your client's team, you're not really making the difference that you actually could. And also, don't be scared. Understanding the data doesn't cut you off from creativity. Hopefully it helps you be more creative. because you have more ideas, you have more insights, and ultimately you understand your customers better, which is what we're all trying to do. Thank you so much. I think it's been a really inspiring partnership. Please put your hands together.
Thank you.